Hello, fourth grade. Today we're going to work through capitalization exercise 2. If you need to go back and reread your notes to refresh your brain from having the weekend off, pause the video and do that now. And what we're going to do on exercise 2 is pretty much the same thing we did on exercise 1. For the top part, we're going to circle the letters in the sentence that need to be capitalized. Sentence number 1 says, "One day on our trip, we made arrangements to camp with a group of Jewish kids from New York City." So, see if you can remember what to capitalize. Circle the letters that need to be capitalized. I'm going to give you a second to do that, and then we'll go over it. Okay. We need to circle the J in Jewish because that is a religion. And New York City, that's the name of a city. So all 3 letters, N in New York, or N in new, Y in York, and C in city need to be capitalized. Number 2. Their leader was Mr. Jerome Steinberg, and he and our Mr. Green had been roommates at Ohio State University. There are several things that need to be capitalized in this sentence. See if you can find them. Okay, Mr. Jerome Steinberg. All needs to be capitalized. That's his name. Mr. Green. And then the title of their college, Ohio State University, needs to be capitalized. Number 3, we had a great time around the campfire that night as Mr. Green and Mr. Steinberg told stories about their crazy college days. All right, we needs to be capitalized. It's the beginning of a sentence. Mr. Green, Mr. Steinberg. Number 4, then Mr. Steinberg read us a story called The Gold Bug. So you already know Mr. Steinberg because we've been doing that in several other sentences. And then the name of the story, The Gold Bug. And number 5, it was a little creepy as we sat under the shadow of the Great Smoky Mountains. Circle what needs to be capitalized there. Okay, the place, it's a proper noun, Great Smoky Mountains. All right, and on the bottom part, we are going to find the errors in the following sentences. Remember, if it needs to be capitalized, we're going to draw 3 short lines underneath it. And then there are 7 errors. So let's read the whole thing together and then we'll break it down by sentence. At the end of the story, the 2 leaders said, "It's time to turn in, guys." We headed toward our neatly pitched tent and crawled into our warm sleeping bags. After a fair amount of whispering, giggling, and joking, Mr. Green told us it was time to go to sleep. So look at your first sentence. At the end of the story, the 2 leaders said, "It's time to turn in, guys." So at the end of the story, we need to add a comma. The 2 leaders said, comma. It's time to turn in. We're going to put a comma after that before we say guys, because guys, is who we're speaking to. We headed toward our neatly pitched tent and crawled into our warm sleeping bags. Any changes there? We do not need a comma after neatly pitched. After a fair amount of whispering, giggling, and joking, Mr. Green told us it was time to go to sleep. After a fair amount of whispering, giggling, we're naming things, items in a series, so we need a comma after giggling and joking. Mr. Green, that's his name, so G needs to be capitalized, told us it was time to go to sleep. We do not need a comma after was. So there's your 7 items. Have a good rest of the day, 4th grade.